Hello everyone. Good afternoon. Am I audible? Am I loud and clear? Can you please respond in the chat box? Video lagging. Okay. Give me one moment. Some delay is there. Video is actually having some delay. There also. Video lagging. Network issue.
It will be fine.
It will be
Some
okay.
time.
Okay. Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon. Okay, we have a little network problem right now, but it will be all right soon. If in between, if you are facing some network issues, please let me know. Please reply in the chat box. We will be monitoring it in between. As of now, is everything audible properly? Shall we start? No, actually, the lecture that I have completed for marketing, it will be that much only from the marathon side. But I'm not, as everyone says, like the single lecture will not be sufficient. Like you have to go through your textbooks, you have to go through the PYQs, you have to go through the uh, MCQs, then only it will be complete. So that is actually a basic understanding that you will be getting all the conceptual understanding and how actually the subject is vast. Okay, so the more you read from the basics that we have dealt in the syllabus or in the marathon, then it will be obviously helping you. Lagging and voice is not clear. Too lagging. Okay. Shashank, can you make the chat box a little more enlarged? Chat box. That's it. Chat box is actually very little font. Mhm. This lecture you will cover the types of market. Types of market. Is it audible right now? Am I dear students? How is it now? I think the audio and video clarity is right now good. Sound is very low. Okay. Okay, somebody was asking like whether in this lecture the types of market will be completed, but it has been already been completed in the agricultural marketing portion, right? Have you gone through the video, or is it something else that you are asking? It's not lagging. Okay, thank you. Sound, is it clear? Am I audible right now? Is it loud and clear? If everything is okay, we can start for today. Can everyone give me a thumbs up if everything is okay in the chat box, please? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Shashank Mishra, actually the oligopoly and all the market structures, I think it has been already dealt in the microeconomics class. I guess it is covered, right? I guess it is covered already, but let me know if some other clarifications are required or not. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the responses. So, welcome back everyone. Welcome back to our YouTube channel Agri Addict, and good afternoon. I am your social science mentor Ajay Antosoi, and today we are dealing with the marathon session of agricultural economics. Particularly, this is our last marathon because we have completed already the microeconomics, macroeconomics, then agricultural finance. Last class was agricultural marketing, and today the final major section, which is an interesting topic, that is none other than our production economics as well as farm management. So, as I always say, referring to the video is totally fine. You will be getting all the conceptual understanding, and we are ready to explain it infinite times. But the thing is, do not rely upon simply videos. Okay, it's like, okay, 50% we will be taking, but the 50% effort is from your side. You have to, after the classes, after carefully listening it, rather than making too much notes right now, just listen to the concepts, understand everything clear, and ask me whenever you are getting some doubts or some clarifications if required, and go through your textbooks if you have enough time. Go through your MCQs, practice more, because this is the last time. It, rather than making up or reading all the concepts and understanding it by yourself, will be totally difficult for you. That's why actually we are trying to help you with all the conceptual understanding, as well as under after 2 or 3 hours of the classes, you will be having the entire overview of the syllabus as well as the things that you have to read and study. So while going through the class, you will be understanding your weak points as well as your strong points. That's why we are trying to make the classes a little more interactive. That's why I am asking questions in between. In between, if you need some clarifications, and if I am asking some questions, keep it in the chat box, which will be reflecting your responses as well as our clarification regarding your understanding regarding the topics. And again, I am reminding you that after the class, you should go through your textbooks, you should have a revision, you should go through your PYQs, you should go through your MCQ textbooks. So that only will be giving you the complete understanding. So I'm not telling that 100% of this video will be covering entire subject, because like going through all the factual information within a stipulated time is really difficult, but still we are trying our maximum, and I hope that you are understanding that idea from our previous marathons. Okay, thank you. So let's begin. So we are dealing with the farm management as well as production economics today. So I'm your social science mentor. My name is Ajay Antosoi. Currently I am pursuing my PhD in agricultural economics. So just I'm just giving you a brief introduction why actually we are studying the production economics and farm management, or what is the basic difference between agricultural production economics and agricultural farm management. So as we already suggest, like agricultural production economics is actually a branch of our agricultural economics, a major branch of agricultural economics. So here in agricultural production economics, we are dealing with the production process in a macro view. Okay, we can say that maybe you can apply in a logical way that we are applying macroeconomics in agricultural production. Here we are dealing with the entire production process, we are generalizing everything, right? We have an output. So what is the production? We shall start with the basic idea, that is nothing but, what is production? Production is nothing but conversion of some of the inputs to outputs, right? So it can be the inputs can be maybe land, labor, capital, or organization. The factors of production are none other than your input. So in production economics, we refer all the raw materials or all the factors of production that we are using in the production process as input. So this input is going through a process and converting into this output, right? Output is none other than your final product. It can be an agricultural product, it can be a manufacturing product, or it can be even an intermediate product, right? If you are considering the ammonia manufacturing industry, what is the final product? It is none other than NH3, ammonia, right? And your inputs are none other than nitrogen and hydrogen. Maybe some labor will be there, maybe some machineries will be there, catalyst will be there. So those are inputs. Ammonia is your output. Even though if we are considering it as an intermediate output, from that industry's final point of view, ammonia is actually your final product. So conversion of inputs to some outputs, this entire production process is none other than the process of production, right? So we are generalizing each and every raw materials as inputs, and we are referring to all the final products as outputs here. So that's why actually we are referring this agricultural production economics as a macro branch. At the same time, when we are coming to the farm management, we will be trying to apply all the theoretical values of this agricultural production economics to the farm perspective. So what happens, this is actually a little more micro concept, right? Here we are generalizing every production process as input output relationship, but at the same time, when we are coming to the farm management, it is actually a piece of land. Imagine that I am a farmer, I will be having a piece of land, right? So I will be applying all the principles that I learned from the general production function, or we can say that the input output relationship, and I'll be applying it in my small piece of land, and I'll be trying to increase my profits, or I'll be trying to increase my production, or I'll be trying to decrease my cost of production or cost of cultivation. That is the basic idea between the production economics as well as farm management. So agricultural production economics is a specialized branch of agricultural economics. It is macroeconomics in scope, but at the same time, farm management is actually an integral part of agricultural production economics. It is actually a subset of agricultural production economics, and it is microeconomic in scope, because we are trying to focus on a single piece of land or single farm firm, right? And in agricultural production economics, as we have already told, it is a macroeconomic study. We will be integrating all the farms, all the production aspects. So it is actually an inter-farm study. We'll be comparing with one farm to another. At the same time, when it comes to the farm management, it is actually working in a piece of land. So it is actually an intra-farm study. That is the basic idea. So it's simply just to give you a brief introduction about what is actually the basic idea of agricultural production economics and farm management. So you already know this basic concept. Before proceeding, farm, what is actually a piece of land? It's actually a piece of land where actually the production process is being carried out by a farmer entrepreneur. That is none other than the farm, which will be under a single management. Then what is actually the production process of conversion of inputs to the outputs? You know already the production function is. What is production function? Production function is none other than, we are trying to relate the or we are trying to apply the mathematical concepts here. Okay, we are trying to apply some mathematical concepts here, and we are trying to find out what is the basic relationship between the output and input. Okay, what is the basic mathematical relationship between the output as well as the input? If I am increasing my input, whether my output is changing or not. If I am decreasing my input, how actually my output is going to change? How much change it can cause? Okay, I have different kinds of inputs, right? Maybe imagine that I am going to, I have a little plant. Okay, I think like in the 5th of June, we used to get a plant sapling. Okay, because of environmental day, when we were doing our schooling, we used to get a plant sapling on the environmental day, that is nothing on June 5th. Okay, so imagine that I am just having a plant sapling. I am planting it in my maybe my courtyard or wherever it is, in my home. So after planting it, I am giving maybe water to it, right? So water is actually one input. I may be giving some cow dung or farmyard manure to it, that is another input, right? Maybe I will be giving some additional like manures or something like that when I'm having from my farm, like from my father or maybe some neighbors, I'll be applying it, right? Maybe some insect or pest attack is actually happening right now, so therefore I'll be maybe using some cow urine or something, or maybe some starch solution or something I'll be applying, right, in order to reduce the disease infestation or maybe pest infestation. That is also another input, right? So all these inputs are actually having a little amount of growth in the final output. It's none other than the growth of the plant, right? Maybe addition of a leaf, or maybe increase the height, or something like that. So we can measure that output in maybe the height of the plant, or maybe the number of leaves which is actually it is performing, right? So we have already too many inputs here, we have some outputs here, and we just want to understand, when I am giving 1 unit of farmyard manure, how much actually the impact causing in the growth of this plant. That is none other than the production function. Okay, in the production process we are trying to understand how much actually this input is actually impacting the output. What is the technical and mathematical relationship between the input as well as the output? That is none other than your production function. So upon this idea of production function, we are proceeding with the agricultural production economics. So you will be understanding it a little more better if when we are going further. Okay, then some basic ideas like agricultural holding. It is none other than the total area of land owned by an individual or a joint family, whether cultivated or it can be rented out also. Okay, agricultural holding, it can be cultivated or it may not be cultivated, it can be owned by them or it can be rented out. But when it comes to the operational holding under a single management, how much you are actually cultivating, that is the basic difference between the agricultural holding as well as operational holding. Then family holding. Family holding is none other than a farm which is actually yielding a gross income of rupees 1600 or rupees 1200 per annum. Sorry, gross income of 1600 and a net income of 1200 per annum. That is none other than your family holding. These are some of the technical standards which was already created years before. Right now we know that per annum, if we are generating 1200 rupees, means like it's nothing, right? But so this is actually some of the older concepts. So probability of asking such kind of technical questions are literally less, but still it is there in our textbook. We are just referring to it. So just these are some of the factual things. Then what is optimum holding? Optimum holding is none other than minimum maximum size of the holding which a family should possess, how much a family should be having it, and it is actually 3 times to the 3 times of the family holding is considered as the optimum holding. So family holding into how much, that value of family holding into 3 will be giving you the optimum holding. So optimum holding is actually the maximum size which actually should a family should possess. And finally the economic holding. Economic holding, as we already know, which the holding which actually gives them some minimum standard of living. Okay, defined as one which could provide the reasonable standard of living to the family. Such holding is known as economic holding. These are some of the classifications in order to understand how much actually a farmer should be possessing, how what kind of a piece of land will be giving some basic necessities which should be provided to the family. Such kind of things are only coming under this basic ideas or some basic concepts. Then here these are some of the important things that we in fact require in our further slides or further portions. First one is fixed resource, second one is variable resource. So you have already studied what is actually fixed cost, what is actually fixed variable cost in your microeconomics classes when you studied the cost concepts. But right now we want to understand what is actually the fixed resource. As the name suggests, it is fixed there, right? It is fixed there. For example, the phone that you are using right now, it is actually fixed resource. After scrolling or after watching a uh, film, or maybe after maybe watching a class right now, your phone is actually not going to exhausted. It is actually like maybe after 3 to 4 years to 5 years to 6 years you can use it, right? So again and again for the same purpose you can use the phone again and again. Such kind of resources are known as fixed resources. Okay, land can be considered as a fixed resource. Why? Because if a farmer is actually having 5 acres of land, that 5 acres of land is a fixed resource, because even after cultivating the 5 acres of land for one season, it's actually not gone, it's not going to burn off. It is actually again and again you can use it afterwards, right? So therefore again and again multiple times you can use it, and it is constant in the production program. That is none other than your fixed resource. Then what is variable resource? Variable resource is none other than once those resources, see here the resources inputs everything is conceptually the same. Okay, conceptually it is the same. Resources are none other than which actually helps in the production process. If we are considering, if we are inputs are also the same, but if you are asking me what is the basic difference, means among the inputs what is actually going to the production process, that is none other than your resources. So technically both are the same only. Okay, so what is actually the variable resource? Variable resource is none other than once you are using it, it will be exhausted. You cannot use it again and again. For example, I had one sack of paddy seeds. Okay, I had 1 sack of paddy seeds. After broadcasting or maybe after sowing it, whether that entire sack is actually totally used up. Okay, whether I can use the same seeds again and again after collecting from my maybe my farmland? No. Once it is used, it is exhausted, and you have to use another resources if you want to sow again in the next season, right? I had maybe what 1 tank of water. Okay, one entire barrel of water I had. I was using it for irrigation. After irrigation, can I make use of that same irrigation water again back, and I can use it reuse it again? No. Once it is used, it is getting exhausted. Such kind of resources are known as variable resources. So what is variable here? The amount which is used is actually varied here, right? The amount which is actually used is, land is also a fixed resource. Yes, land is a fixed resource. No, I don't know, like, if frame the question properly in the chat box, or else like we'll be wasting time. But still, you are free to ask anything. So variable resources, like these resources are changing with the level of production. Also, for the conceptual understanding, you already know that once which is actually used again and again, it is called as fixed resource. If it is actually used up, it is called as variable resource. Also, why actually it is called fixed resource and why it is actually called variable resource, that is the another thing that I am going to show you right now. Okay, for example, all these resources are connected to some of the outputs. For example, I am giving you an example of maybe paddy production. Okay, we have paddy production here. So if I am increasing, see, we have actually fixed resource here. Give me a moment. Okay, here we have fixed resources, here we have variable resource, and here we have output. Okay, so what about our output? Imagine that this is your input and this is your output. Here this is also your input and this is your output. So we are trying to understand, when I am increasing the fixed resources, what actually happens to the output. If I am increasing the variable resources, what will be happening to the output? Imagine that I am having a fixed resource. So fixed resources are none other than, it is independent of your output. It is independent of your output. If you are increasing or if you are decreasing, or even if it is zero, it is actually not going to affect your output. At the same time, this variable resource, this will be totally affecting your output here. Okay, because fixed resources are, in fact, it is not changing at all, and your output is actually independent of the amount of fixed resources there, because it is having nothing to do with your with respect to your output. For example, I have 5 acres of land. Okay, I have 5 acres of land, and that is clear. So 5 acres of land, I can use it up, or I can reduce it, right? So imagine that I am a farmer and I am having 5 acres of land. Upon this 5 acres of land, either I can choose not to produce, right? At that point of time, your output will be 0, right? I am deciding that I will be using up 2.5 acres of land and 2.5 acres of fallow land. What will be happening? Your production will be like this here, right? At the same time, if I'm using it up 5 acres of land, your production will be here, right? So therefore, your output is here, actually the amount of fixed resources is actually not at, your output is actually not at all depending upon your fixed resources. At the same time, when it comes to the variable resources, varying upon the level of production, your input is going to continuously increasing like this. For example, if you are increasing, if you are giving 0 farmyard manure, imagine that actually the land is actually not at all fertile. Land is not at all fertile. So if you are giving 0 amount of nitrogen fertilizer, maybe it can be farmyard manure or something, your production will be 0. But as your production is actually getting increased, what will be happening? The amount of variable resources will be increasing your output. At the same time, here, whether you have produced it or not, it is actually not depending upon the amount of fixed resources that you are going, because like this 0 production here, or maybe the 2.5 quintals of production here, or maybe the 5 quintals of production here, was actually based on the 5 acres of land only. You have not increased or decreased the fixed resources here. because already the resource is there only. Are you getting my point? Land is also a fixed resource. Yes. Are you getting my point? Can you follow me? So the idea is 5 acres of land is fixed there. We don't know how much of it is actually getting used. It will be deciding the output, but at the same time we have 5 acres of land. So therefore, fixing the 5 acres of land there only, we can't say that your production is increased or decreased. But always remember that when you are increasing the using up of the fixed resources, or maybe the 5 acres of land, along with that you will be adding up the variable resources also. And as variable resources increases only, you can see some of the impact in the output. That's why actually it is called as fixed resource as well as the variable resource. Simply giving you a technical idea regarding what is actually the fixed resource as well as the variable resource. And always remember, like you need to understand what is the basic idea between the short run as well as the long run right now. Okay, what is short run as well as long run? So short run is none other than, in short run, like in the layman language we will be thinking like, okay, short run means like it is a short period of time, long run means like it is a long period of time. But we can't use, or we can't measure that short run or long run with a time scale. It is actually based on how actually our resources are going to increase or decrease, or how actually it is getting used up in a particular time period. Okay, so when it comes to the short run, you can understand that there will be coexistence of the fixed resources as well as the variable resources. You can find both the fixed resources as well as the variable resources in a period which is called as short run. But what happens when it comes to the long run? If you are going to the long run, what will be happening? Every resources will be variable resources. Every resources will be variable resources. That is the basic idea between the short run as well as the long run. So at least if one resource is a fixed resource, we can call it as a short run. But if every resources are variable, you can call it as a long run resource. Okay, so long run function or something like that. So that is the basic idea between the short run as well as the long run. Then what else? Then the basic idea of cost of production and cost of cultivation. So cost of production is none other than the expenditure incurred into producing a unit quantity of output. So cost of production means like producing a particular additional quantity. How much additional cost? That is none other than your cost of production. Then what is cost of cultivation? Cost of cultivation is like cultivating in a unit area, right? So in a unit area, how much cost is incurred for the entire cultivation? That is none other than your cost of cultivation. So these are some of the basic concepts. We have more things to, yeah, dependent variable and independent variable. Okay, coming to the dependent variable and independent variable. So why actually we are covering all these things means like it will be helping you to understand the different relationships that we are going to understand in the further slides. So coming to the dependent variable and independent variable. So whenever you are trying to express a function, it will be like function of something, right? So here we, from this point onwards, we will be using y as your output variable and x as your input variable. So x is none other than some of the raw materials that we are getting using, and y is actually none other than the final product. So y1, y2, y3 means total outputs which is produced. x1, x2, x3 means the total inputs which is produced, right? And we have already found out that y is actually is a function of x, right? Y is actually a function of x. It's none other than your total output is actually a function of total inputs. If there is no input, no output. If increased inputs, more output, right? Am I correct or what? So we are trying to understand a functional relationship, and this y is actually known as dependent variable. Okay, this is also known as dependent variable because it is depending on something. When there is zero land, there is no production at all, right? So therefore y output is actually depending upon the input. That's why it is called as dependent variable. What about the independent variable? Amount of input, maybe the cow dung that you are using, the farmyard manure that you are using, or maybe the urea that you are using, it is actually not depending upon how much output that you are producing. It is actually independent of your production. It's actually upon your own idea, like how much you have to use it, right? So that's why actually x is called as an independent variable. So always when we are giving a functional relationship, maybe like it's like phi is equal to function of x1, x2, x3, x4. This is actually a production function. What is a production function? It is actually showing the technical and mathematical relationship between the output as well as the input. output as well as the input, right? So therefore we have 4 inputs here, x1, x2, x3 and x4, and all these things are independent variables, but these things will be depending upon how much to be produced. That is none other than your output. So therefore y is called as your dependent variable. So this is the basic idea of dependent variable and independent variable. So uh, how we can understand whether actually this is actually short run production function or long run production function. So short run production function means, like, as we already know, there will be at least one fixed factor, rest everything will be variable factor. Okay, so we can understand that at least one of the inputs here will be a fixed factor. Imagine that x1 is actually x1 is your variable factor and everything is fixed factor here. Okay, so this is actually your short run production function. We are separating all the fixed factors from the variable factors, then only we can understand what is the relationship between the x1 to the y. Okay, are you getting my point? Can you follow me? So why actually we are keeping all the other things fixed? It's none other than our basic assumption of economics, ceteris paribus, right? Keep all other things constant in order to understand the individual effect of something with respect to the total product. Imagine that I am conducting a class test. Okay, I am conducting a class test after this examination, and maybe 50 or 60% you will be making it. You will be giving the examination. After giving the examination, I am just checking the scores, and without even judging, or because I don't know you people in person, right? So therefore without just judging, I am just seeing to I have taken all the scores, I am taking the average. Okay, the exam paper was for 100 marks. Okay, when I saw the average score, because like maybe 50 or 60% you will be you will be giving the examination. After getting all the scores, I am just taking the average, and I am getting that already like 85 percentage score is actually getting on an average. Can I assess that a single student has performed 85 percentage or not? It's not possible, right? If there is a student who's actually scoring maybe less than 40, okay, his actual mark is 40 only. So in order to understand what actually happens to an individual student, what should I do? I should let go of everybody else and I should concentrate on a particular person, right? That is a short run production function. I am just letting going of all other inputs and selecting a particular variable resource here, because as variable resource increases, our output is impacted. Am I correct or what? So when my variable resource increases, my output is getting impacted. So how much actually the impact is there? So I have to study the relationship right here. So therefore I am keeping all other things being constant, and I am trying to understand, if I am varying 1 unit by 1 unit the x1 resource, what will be happening to my y. That is basically the short run production function. When it comes to long run production function, everything will be variable. There will not be no fixed resources, everything will be variable. So you will be we will be having it out like, okay, land we have already told as a variable resource. How land can be, land is basically considered as a fixed resource, because you cannot extend the land or stretch the land. But then how actually land, if since it is actually an input, or since it is actually a resource, how it is becoming a variable resource in the long run? Yes, it is possible. I'll be giving you an example. You have started your paddy production, it's kharif season already started, right? Maybe in the South Indian states and all, already the rice cultivation would have been started. So imagine that you have almost like your leased in land as well as your total agricultural holding that we have already discussed is actually 5 acres. Okay, so this 5 acres of land, you have started the paddy cultivation on the 1st of June, because the kharif is starting on 1st of June, right? So the 1st of June you have started the paddy, and it's almost like 15th of June, right? Like 15 days almost past the sowing season. Sowing is almost done, and we are trying to maintain the cultivation right now. Suddenly, right now, I am feeling like, okay, anyway, the paddy production is actually profitable right now. Whether I should increase my production, and what if I am starting again? Okay, I'll lease in maybe 1 or 2 more acres of land, and I'll again sow it. It has to be sown 15 days back. Right now, if the same variety, if I am sowing, means it's 15 days late. So it will be impacting my cultivation. Whether I can extend my land here? No. My land is fixed, 5 acres of land. You cannot extend that 5 acres of land right now. That is the short-term production function. That's how actually land is becoming fixed in the case of short run. But what happens if I am considering the entire year? Anyway, I am just cultivating for the 5 acres of land right now, but seeing the profit in the second season, for the Rabi season, I can include more land for the next year's cultivation, right? So sum total means like if in a particular way 5 acres plus 5 acres, total 10 acres. In the long run way, 5 acres plus maybe 7 acres, 12 acres. So here actually in the long run production, land became flexible. So you cannot absolutely say that land is actually a fixed resource always. In the long run, land even can become a variable source. Clear? I think that is actually a major conceptual clarity that you require from this point of view. So we know what is a dependent variable, independent variable, short run production function and long run production function. Shall we proceed? Can everyone give me a thumbs up? Can you follow me? Okay. So before starting, yes, thank you, thanks a lot. So before starting, we will be seeing some of the basic laws of returns. So what are the laws of returns? Here we have three laws of returns. First one is law of increasing returns, second one is law of constant returns, and third one is law of decreasing returns. So rather than going to the theoretical portions and all, you should conceptually understanding what actually happening here. Okay. As I have already told, in order to simplify our analysis, we are trying to find out the production function, right? So in the production function, we have a variable resource. We have another fixed, sorry, we have many fixed resources, but fixed resource is actually not going to give any support to the total production. So therefore, we have one variable resource and we have a total output. So we are trying to understand the, if I am just giving an additional change to the variable resource, how much or how actually it is going to impact the total output. That is the basic idea. So what actually the law of increasing returns means? Increasing returns means like for every increased unit increase, like in every these cases, what actually we are trying to do is none other than, you have a variable resource that is none other than your x1. Okay, so your x1 you are trying to increase from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. Okay, you are trying to understand how this is going to impact your y. Y is none other than your output. So this is a fixed variable, so variable resource. So change in the variable resource will be obviously impacting your output. So we are trying to understand the mathematical relationship between the fixed, sorry, variable resource as well as the output. So therefore, for a unit increase, I am just trying to increase, like, okay, 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit. So for every increase, how much my additional output has changed. That is the basic idea of all these three laws. Okay, so how the output is actually going to change here will be classifying the laws of returns into increasing returns, constant returns and law of decreasing returns. Okay, so from the case of increasing returns, when I am giving 0 unit of variable resource, what will be my total product? It will be obviously 0, right? No matter how many fixed resources there are, if you are not giving variable resource, means like your total production will be 0 for sure. Example, you have land area, you have 5 acres of land, you have ample number of workers there, you have fertilizers, you have pesticides, you have irrigation water, everything is ready. You don't have seeds. Whether there will be output? No. So that is the basic case here. So when you are increasing the seed by maybe 1 sack or 2 sack or 3 sack or 4 sack, how much total production will be there? It will be obviously increasing, right? So when you are giving increasing your variable input by 1 unit, it will be increased by 2. Then after 2, again 1, see here in every increase, one more unit is actually happening, 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, like that it is going, right? So therefore, why I am trying to check? So here after 1 unit, I am getting 2 units. 2 units of output. Then again I am increasing 1, you will be getting 5. Then again I am getting increasing 1 more unit, I am getting maybe 10. Then again I am getting increasing, I am getting 25. And again if I am increasing, I will be getting 50. Okay, this is actually our first case. So for every unit increase, my total output is increasing. That is for sure, right? When I am increasing my variable input, obviously my total output will be increasing. But what actually happens here? Have you checked the rate? For the first unit increase, what is the rate? The first unit increase is actually giving you increase of 2 units of output. But in the second unit, it is actually giving you 3 units. In the next additional, you are getting addition of 5 units. next addition you are getting 15 units, next addition you are getting 25 units, right? So in each and every unit addition, the impact in the output, anyway it is actually increasing, but that increasing is actually in an increasing rate. The impact is actually getting more and more. For all the unit increases, the impact of the output is getting increased. This is none other than your law of increasing returns. Got my point? So this is none other than your law of increasing returns. If this rate was constant, like I will be giving you this example. If this rate was constant, when I have increased 1 unit, it was 5, then 10, then 15, then 20, then 25. What is actually the difference? Everywhere the difference is 5 only, right? Everywhere the difference is 5. This is none other than your law of constant returns. At the same time, see what actually happens. Your variable input is increasing. Your total input is also increasing. But we want to understand how much rate it is increasing. But the rate is constant. That is none other than your law of constant returns. Similarly, it is actually giving you another I'll be giving you another example. So 0 units, 0. For 1 unit I am getting 25. Then for the second increase I am getting 15. So in the next I am getting 25, 25, 35, 40, 42, 43. As your variable resources increases, your total product is also increases, right? It is increasing from 0 to 25, then 35, 40, 42, 43, right? But what is actually the rate here? In the first increase you are getting addition of 25 units of output. In the next increase you are getting only 10 units. Then in the next unit you are getting only 5 units. In the next unit you are getting only 2 units, and in the next unit you are only getting an addition of 1 unit here. So even though your total output is increasing here, the rate is decreasing. That is none other than your law of decreasing returns here. Clear? Can you follow me? These are the different types of laws of returns. So right now we know something like if we are increasing our variable resources, obviously our total product or our total output is going to increase. But it can vary. It can follow law of decreasing returns, law of increasing returns, or law of constant returns. And theoretically speaking, we can understand that this law of increasing and constant returns can be possible, but generally in the agriculture you will be finding law of decreasing returns more what we call for it like frequent. Okay, this is actually the most commonly seen thing. These are more or less theoretical because like you cannot expect the same level of increase in the returns or an increased kind of increase in the returns in fact or in practical, but this is actually the most commonly expected or most commonly practiced kind of kind of returns or type of returns that you can expect in the agricultural point of view. So these are some of the laws of returns. So coming to the basic problems that we are addressing, so we have three major issues that we are going to trying to find out the answers from the agricultural production economics. The first one is what to produce, second one is how to produce, and the third one is how much to produce. So what to produce, you will be finding out the product relationship. In how to produce, you will be understanding the factor relationship, and how much to produce, we will be seeing the factor product relationship. So we are going to see this kind of three types of relationships: factor product, factor, and factor product relationship. So coming to the factor product relationship, this is the first basic idea where actually we are trying to find out the estimate, or we are trying to relate with the amount of variable resources with respect to some of the outputs which is produced. So for simplifying it, as I have already told, we have a final output y, and we are trying to connect it with one of the variable resources x1, and it is actually a bar x2, x3, x4. What it is, these all the things are actually getting fixed here. Okay, so that we have to understand whether this x1 is actually having some variable or impact on y1. So we are trying to figure it out how much actually if x1 is increased, y is getting how actually the output is getting impacted. So in order to proceed with the factor product relationship, we need three of the major ideas. First thing, total physical product, second one is average physical product, and third one is marginal physical product. So this, the conceptual understanding of this is very much important. What is total physical product? Total physical product is none other than the whichever production process that you can assume, it can be maybe urea production, it can be a crop production, or whatever it is, how much quantity that is finally created, or how much output in quantity, that is what I'm telling. It can be, if I am having one cow, I'm telling that the total product of my cow for the particular day is maybe 30 liters. It's none other than the total product which is actually already created. After the paddy production, what is my total product? Total product is none other than maybe to 10 quintals or 15 quintals of product that I have produced. That is none other than your total physical product. Okay, so this is none other than the total product which is actually measured in terms of units. Can be kilograms, it can be in quintals, it can be in liters, right? So this is none other than your total physical product. It can be even your height of the plant, maybe number of leaves or whatever it is. What is actually the unit that we can count on, or that we can measure the total product? That is none other than your total physical product. It is also known as total product. So TPP or TP, both are the same. Okay, then what is average physical product and marginal physical product? Let me give you some example. As I have already given you an idea like how much actually the okay, how much actually I have already conducted an exam for you. Maybe 50 to 60% would have been written the examination, and I have figured out all the marks, and I am taking the average of it. That is none other than your average product. Okay, but I just want to understand like each person's mark. That is none other than my marginal product. So if we are relating this with respect to the production process, okay, what I am trying to do here is simple idea. Okay, I am starting with the first example that I have given. I got a plant sapling on my environmental day. I have I'm a kid right now, so therefore I am planting it and I am experimenting day by day. Okay, first day I have given nothing, second day I have given a little water, third day I have given a little more water. Okay, first day I have given nothing, second day I have given a cup of water, second day I have given 2 cups of water, third day I have given 3 cups of water, fourth day I am giving 4 cups of water, fifth day I am giving 5 cups of water. That is what I am doing. Another example, I am keeping the plant sapling here. First day I have given nothing, second day I have given maybe a handful of cow dung. Okay, third day again 2 handful of cow dung, fourth day I am again giving 3. Okay, literally I am trying to increase my input usage, and in every input usage, on an average, how much change has happened to the entire yield? That is none other than your average physical product. But what is marginal physical product? On the second day, for the input that I have given, correspondingly how much change has happened? That is the marginal physical product. So these are the main basic idea between total physical product, average physical product, and marginal physical product. Is it clear? Can you give me a thumbs up in the chat box? Because understanding this is very important when we are proceeding to the next slides. So total physical product is none other than after the application of the entire input, how much total output is created. But when it comes to the average physical product, for giving this much quantity, maybe first day I have given 100 maybe 1 cup, second day I have given 2 cups, third day I have given 3 cups, fourth day I have given 4 cups, like similarly I am going. So when I am going like that, how much total product is created? That is none other than on an average. That is none other than your average physical product. It's none other than total physical product divided by the total input that you have given. But what happens to the marginal physical product? For a particular incremental increase in my input, how much total product is generated? That is actually a concurrent increase. That is none other than your marginal physical product. Clear? 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 Okay. So surprisingly, this increase in the input. So in the x-axis, we will be checking out the input, and in the y-axis, we will be checking the output. Okay. So here we'll be checking the TPP, APP, and MPP. In the x-axis, we'll be checking the X input. Then maybe the cup of water, or maybe the handful of cow dung that I have given, or whatever it is, what variable resource that you are using right now. So I am trying to increase my variable resources from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. It is going on like this. Okay, so in the x-axis we have inputs, and in the y-axis we are trying to find out how actually the TPP, APP, and NPP. Surprisingly, in every production process, if you are infinitely increasing your variable resource, a single variable resource from 0 to infinity, or as you keep on increasing it, the general pattern of the total physical product, average physical product, and marginal physical product, let it be in agricultural sector or let it be in the industrial sector, this is the same. Maybe the time period which is actually taking may can differ, but the pattern of increasing this TPP, pattern of APP, pattern of MPP is more or less the same here. That's why actually we are generalizing this as our production function graph or TPP curve. We will be calling this as TPP curve here. Okay, so we are trying to understand the TPP, APP, and MPP when we are increasing the variable resources. So I am trying to increase my variable resource from 0 to like that. So when I'm giving 0 variable resource, it's like the case that I have told. Everything is there. All the fixed factors is there, but at the same time, seeds are not there. Whether the production will happen? No. So therefore, at 0 input, at 0 level of input, our output or TPP also will be the 0. So therefore, APP also will be the 0. MPP also will be the 0 because there is no additional production there, right? But as you are giving one more unit, first you have given one unit, then you have given second unit, then you have given third unit, then you have given fourth unit, fifth unit, sixth unit, like that you are increasing your variable resources here. Okay, as you are increasing your variable resource, what will be happening? Your TPP is going to increase. So if you are checking the increase in the TPP, first it will be increasing at an increasing rate. So here it is actually having a slight bend is there. So then at this point it will be increasing at a constant rate, then it is actually increasing at a decreasing rate. Even though if it is increasing, first it will be increasing at an increasing rate, as we have seen in the laws of increasing returns in the previous slide. Then at a small point it will be increasing at a constant rate because the rate is same only. Then after that also it is increasing because it is actually having a upward sloping, right? But the increase rate is reduced, so therefore it is actually increasing at an increasing rate, constant rate, and decreasing rate. So therefore here it is actually having a convex shape towards the x-axis, then it is actually increasing at a constant rate, then it is actually changing its curvature to the concave. So this is actually concave side, right? So concave to the x-axis. So therefore it was actually convex first. It was actually convex first, then at a point it is changing its curvature to the concave. Sir, in Subhash Chandra, it has given TPP curve is concave upwards in stage 1 and concave downwards in stage 2. How comes the difference, sir? We cannot say that the upon the stages the curvature is actually changing, because in the stage 1 itself, I would say in the stage 1 itself the curvature is actually changing. You cannot say that the TPP curve is actually convex in the stage 1, because in the stage 1 itself the TPP curve is convex to the x-axis, then increasing in the straight line and starting to bend concave to the x-axis. But you can say that in the stage 2 it is always convex to the x-axis, sorry, concave to the x-axis, so not convex, concave to the x-axis. So in the stage 1 you cannot assume that it is in a single curvature. Both these three curvatures, the increasing slope, then constant slope, and then decreasing slope, you can say in the stage 1 itself. So that's actually a mistake there in Subhash Chandra. But in the stage 2 you can say that it is increasing at a decreasing rate in the stage 2. So therefore it is actually concave to the x-axis. And what happens in the stage 3? Stage 3, like the stages we will be saying. So TPP increases, reaches a maximum, and it starts to decrease. That is the basic idea. Okay, so as we increase our variable resources, TPP increases, reaches maximum, and after this it is reducing. It's simply like this. Like imagine that, like I had a plant sapling. What if first day I am not at all giving any water, so therefore there will not be any change. But second day I am giving 1 cup, third day I am giving again another cup, fourth day again giving another cup, fifth day and again I'm giving another cup, right? So I'm trying to increase my variable resources. But if I am continuously giving water, what will be happening? There are chances of water stagnation and the roots of the plants will be lost, right? But we should give water in an optimal way. So if we are giving it in an optimal way, our total production will be increasing. It goes on increasing. But after that it is actually getting a little more suffocation. So therefore even if your total plant growth is increasing, it is actually in a lesser way. That's why actually it is shifting to the concave side. Okay, then it reached the maximum because it is actually getting enough water to that. Even after that, if you are starting to pour the water, what will be happening? The root will be starting to decay, right? So therefore the total production or your total output will be reducing. The plant is going to become rotten away, right? So that is the basic idea of TPP. Are you getting my point? Can you follow me? Okay, so this is how actually your TPP is going. So right now we have to understand what is APP and MPP. APP I have already told, on an average. Like if I am giving 1 cup, how much growth is actually happening? If I am giving 2 cup, per cup how much it is actually happening? If I am giving 5 cup, per cup how much total product is actually happening? That is none other than your APP. Okay, I have I am conducting the test. Everybody will be having different marks, right? Everybody will be having different marks, but I am trying to understand like per student on an average how much mark you have scored. That is APP. Okay, so if you are checking APP also increasing, it reaches a maximum and it started to reduce. Okay, so like TPP, APP also increases, reaches a maximum and decreasing. When it comes to MPP, this is actually our important person here. Okay, so MPP is none other than the marginal product. For each increase, correspondingly how much output is getting increased or decreased, that is none other than our MPP. So MPP, if you are checking the route map of MPP, MPP is actually increasing first, reaches a maximum, reducing, becomes equals to APP, then it reduces, reaches 0 and it again goes as a negative value. This is the basic idea of MPP. So based on the position of MPP, we are dividing this TPP curve into 3, that is stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3. In stage 1 what happens? MPP increases, reaches a maximum and reduces. Okay, it increases, reaches a maximum and reduces, and when it becomes equals to APP, you can say that stage 1 is ended. So stage 1 starts from variable input equal to 0 or MPP equal to 0 to MPP equals APP. Okay, and what is the peculiarity of this point? At this point, APP was also increasing, but it reached its maximum. So after this point, APP is going to decrease. So therefore, MPP becomes equals to APP if and only if APP is its in maximum. Okay, so you can explain this in different ways. Where actually the stage 1 is going to end? It is ending at MPP becomes equals to APP. Also, you can say that APP is at its maximum. In 2 ways you can explain this, because both are the same, or both are actually correct only. Okay, and also one more thing is like we already told that the marginal physical product, this is actually having more curvatures here, right? Like in the first itself it is actually increasing, it reaches its maximum. So where actually it is reaching its maximum? Correspondingly, if we are checking our TPP curve, when MPP is its maximum, we can say that the TPP is actually changing its curvature, or we can say that at this point only the convexity or convex to x-axis curve, TPP curve, is actually having a slight like the slope is changing as a constant slope, and it is changing its curvature to the concave side. Okay, so this point or the level of variable resource at which the TPP changes its curvature or MPP is at its maximum is also known as point of inflection. So by the end of this class, I want you to interpret this graph in different ways. So in the stage 1 itself, what actually happens? We already know that, like, without even seeing the graph, we should understand that TPP is increasing, but first it is increasing at an increasing rate. But when MPP becomes maximum, TPP is actually increasing at a constant rate, and there at this point TPP changes its curvature. Till that point, TPP was increasing at an increasing rate, so therefore the curve was convex to the x-axis. But after inflection point, or when it crosses MPP its maximum, TPP changes its curvature. Still it is increasing, but it is increasing at a decreasing rate, or the curvature changes to convex to the concave to the x-axis, and the MPP starts to decrease. And at the end of the stage 1, what happens? TPP is still increasing at a decreasing rate. MPP is actually decreased and became equal to APP, and from the beginning APP was increasing, and APP becomes its maximum at the end of stage 1, and it became equal to MPP. So this much things you have to understand from the stage 1. Clear? So I have given all the information what actually happens in stage 1 right now. Can you follow me? I guess you already know this, but still this is consider this as a revision class. We are not going in depth and detail. I am going with an understanding that you already know this. Okay, fine. Thank you. So coming to stage 2, what happens in stage 2 to TPP? Still increasing, but concave to x-axis, or increasing at a decreasing rate. So as you already told, as Subhash Chandra told, in stage 2, TPP curve is actually concave to x-axis. So TPP is fine. And what happens at the end of stage 2? TPP is becoming its maximum. It is becoming its maximum. So where actually stage 2 starts? Where MPP becomes equal to APP. What happens to MPP in this along in the stage 2? It is reducing. It is keeps on reducing. After the inflection point, it was starting to reduce and it is still reducing, right? It is still reducing, and by the end of stage 2, MPP becomes equal to 0. And we already told that at the end of stage 1 or at the beginning of stage 2, APP was its maximum. So APP has got no other option, it will be starting to decline. So APPS goes on declining. None other than there is no other point in the APP right now. It is the only possibility of APP is just to go on decreasing, right? So APP is starting to decline. So what are all the things that happens at the end of stage 1 or beginning of stage 2 and the end of stage 2? TPP is actually increasing at a decreasing rate. So the curvature is actually concave to x-axis. What happens to MPP? In the beginning, it was equal to APP. MPP was equal to APP, but APP was its maximum, so therefore APP is actually continuously decreasing right now. MPP, it was equal to APP, but MPP is still positive, but it is becoming negative. And what happens towards the end? TPP increased and it reached its maximum. APP decreased and it reached 0. APP, it is still decreasing. It's positive, it's keeping on decreasing. That happens in stage 2. What happens in stage 3? TPP is already it's in maximum, so therefore TPP will be starting to decrease. TPP will be declining. What happens to APP? There is no other option. APP still declines. But MPP also still decreasing, but it is in the negative quadrant. It is becoming a negative here. So in the stage 3, MPP becomes negative. Okay, so let me ask you a question. MPP starts to decrease at which stage? MPP starts to decrease at which stage? You can answer in the chat box. MPP starts to decrease at which stage? APP starts to decrease at which stage? TPP starts to decrease at which stage? Both these three things where actually it is getting starting decreasing. That is the basic idea that you have to understand right now. So rest everything will be okay. Okay. First I asked TPP, MPP. I forgot like the order. TPP, APP, MPP. You can answer in this order. TPP, APP, MPP. Which are all the stages? Or you can say in particular, like whether it is the end of the stage 1 or the beginning of the stage 2 or something like that. Or when you are, yes, MPP stage 1. Yes, MPP stage 1 itself, like it is actually reaching its maximum and it is getting reduced, right? Then what about APP? APP and TPP? Okay, you can answer it here. So I guess like the total entire thing here, stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3 is clear. So as I understand, like you can explain each and every stages based on the position of the curves here, right? You can explain it in the terms of TPP, you can explain it in the terms of MPP, you can explain in the terms of APP. You are supposed to explain this because there can be infinite number of statement questions from this single table, single graph, and I think you are in a way to manage right now this. So stage 1 is there, stage 2 is there, stage 3 is there. As you all know, stage 2 is actually the rational stage. Stage 1 and stage 3 are the irrational stage. Why? Because there are possibilities of reorganization of the variable resources. If it is in stage 1, if you are increasing your variable resource, there are still possibility of increasing your TPP. If you are in stage 3, you can still increase the TPP by reducing your variable resources. So increasing or decreasing your variable resource, or increasing or decreasing the possibilities of reorganization of this variable resource, you can maximize your TPP. Our aim is to increase our TPP, right? Yes, TPP at stage 2, APP at stage 2, or beginning of the stage 2, you can say, right? You should be specific, Shamraj. Yes, thank you. You should be specific, like APP is actually starting to begin at the end of stage 1 or beginning of stage 2. But at the same time, TPP, it is starting to decline at the end of stage 2 or beginning of stage 3. Like this, you should be specific. I guess it is clear. Then elasticity of production. So here, as you would have already familiarized with what is the concept of elasticity, we should understand like the rate at which the relative change of the output with respect to the input. That is what actually we have studied in the elasticity of demand and elasticity of supply. We have two variables. with respect to one variable, the relative change to the other variable, how much relative change is happening, that is none other than our elasticity. So here we have a variable resource and we have a fixed resource. So we are trying to understand how much relative change happens to the output with respect to the change in the input. That is none other than your elasticity of production. The basic idea of understanding elasticity of production is none other than MPP by APP, right? MPP is in the numerator, APP is in the denominator. So if you are thorough with the graph, it is very easy. Where actually MPP is crossing APP, where actually MPP is less than APP, accordingly you can understand how much the elasticity would be. In the stage 1, what you can say? In the stage 1, MPP is actually higher than APP. It's like 5 by 4. 5 by 4. 5 is MPP, 4 is APP. So any numerator higher than denominator will be giving you a value greater than 1, right? So therefore, here in the stage 1, elasticity of production will be greater than 1. What happens at the end of stage 1? MPP becomes equal to APP. Numerator equals to denominator. MPP equals to APP. So therefore, at the end of stage 1 or beginning of stage 2, elasticity of production will be equal to 1. In the stage 2, what will be happening? As we are proceeding to the stage 2, MPP is crossing APP and MPP is less than APP right now. So therefore, here elasticity of production will be less than 1, but it will be greater than 0 because MPP is still positive, right? Towards the end of stage 2 or beginning of stage 3, what will be happening? MPP becomes equal to 0. There is no additional production if we are even if we are increasing the variable resources. There is no additional TPP change when even if we are increasing our variable resource. At this point, there is no additional production happens. MPP becomes equal to 0. So therefore, here the elasticity of production will be equal to 0. Then after what happens in stage 3, MPP becomes negative. So therefore, your elasticity of production will be less than 0. Right. So this is how actually you should conceptualize the idea of elasticity of production with respect to the TPP curve. Then how actually we have to understand the determination of optimum level of input as well as optimum level of output. So here, as I have already told, we were trying to seeking out the answer for a particular question. What was the particular question? The question was how much to produce, how much to produce. So here we have inputs as well as we have outputs here. So therefore, we are in a position to understand, or we are in a we should be in a position to understand like how much to produce, like how much input should be used and how much output should be used. Here two questions are there: determination of optimum level of input and determination of optimal level of output. So when it comes to optimal level of input, like how much level of input we should use here in order to work in the rational zone or in the stage 2, that is none other than where we are using two major things. First one is marginal value product and second one is marginal input cost. When you are dealing with these two terminologies, marginal value product and marginal input cost, always remember that this is none other than the additional total revenue that we are generating. The total value product, total revenue that we are generating. But when? That is the question. Both these things are actually telling you how much total additional value generated or total additional cost. When we are doing something, there will be some returns we have, there will be some cost we have. For example, right now it's actually a good Sunday afternoon, you can sleep very much easily, right? But at the same time, you chose to see the class, see the live, go through the revisions. So what is actually your cost? Your sleep, maybe a peaceful day afternoon, right? Maybe you would have had a biryani and you will be having a good time, but you are sacrificing it. That is your cost. But what is your returns? Return is actually like you are saving your time, you are increasing the productivity of your time, you are trying to revise all the things that you have studied and securing a better rank in the future in the examination, right? So that is something which actually connected with the revenue as well as the cost. But since we are determining the inputs here, how actually this MVP and MIC is connected? MVP is none other than the total additional revenue which is generated when you are using one more additional unit of input. It's like the total additional possibility that you are trying to make out from the JRF examination when you are giving one more hour of studying. That is your input, right? You are trying to increase your one more unit of studying and the total revenue that you are getting, that is none other than your marginal value product. What is marginal input cost? When you are trying to figure out one more additional unit, you are giving one more unit again, you are giving one more unit, what is the cost of it? Like what you are sacrificing? whether the time that you are spending with your friends, whether the sleep that you are going to have, all the things, that is none other than the marginal input cost. Okay, so I'm trying to simplify this idea. So marginal value product is none other than when you are increasing one more unit of input, how much additional revenue that you are getting. Marginal input cost, when you are increasing one more unit of input, how much additional cost that you are incurring for it. When marginal value product and marginal input cost, that will be your optimal level of production, because the additional 1 hour that you are spent, that is your additional input. So from that input, the return that you are generating should be on par with the cost that you are giving. Okay, that is none other than the sleep that you are sacrificing right now should be worth with the rank that you are getting. Until and unless you will not be working it for it, right? You are sacrificing everything, and you, for nothing you are sacrificing means like you will not be doing it, right? So that's why actually we are trying to equate the cost as well as the benefit from the input side. That is none other than marginal value product and marginal input cost. Clear? Can you follow me? I think I am going a little more out of syllabus, right? Then coming to determination of optimum level of output, we have to find out an optimum level of how much to produce also is there, right? Like we right now we are trying to like optimize the input level right now. Now we have to optimize the total output to be produced. So here we will be understanding two major concepts that you have already studied, that is marginal cost and marginal revenue. Yes sir. Okay, what for that? Yes, I forgot. Was that for, are we moving a little more out of syllabus? I don't know. Okay, fine. So here we are using two major terminologies. First one is marginal cost and second one is marginal revenue. So what is marginal cost and marginal revenue? We should compare this with the marginal input cost as well as marginal value product. There we were using the input side. Here we are using the output side. Okay, so this is also some cost and some returns which is generated, but with respect to the output. So here, in order to increase my rank by one more, right now my position is maybe all India rank 19. In order to increase my rank from 19 to 18, what is the entire cost I should pay? That is the marginal cost. Okay, when I am increasing my rank from 19 to 18, when I am moving from NTS to JRF, what is the additional revenue that I am getting? That is your marginal revenue. Clear? I think it's clear right now. So marginal input cost was like for the input that you are giving additionally, what is the cost and what is the revenue, and we equated. Here when it comes to the output, in order to increase the output by 1 unit, what is the cost and what is the revenue? Okay, so we are equating the marginal cost and marginal revenue, you will be getting the optimum level of output side. So ideally speaking, the combination of MVP equal to MIC and MC equal to MR will be the same. Okay, it will not be in different extremes, because like inputs as well as the output has to be simultaneously estimated. So we have two approaches. First one is that input approach. There we will be equating MIC and MVP. It's like the availability of the information that we are having. If we are having MR and MC, we will be using the output method. If we are having the input data, we will be using the MIC equal to MVP. Okay, both these things, both these approaches will be resulting in the same value only. We will be understanding the optimal output as well as the input combination. Both will be the same. So this is how actually we are trying to answering the question of how much to produce, through which, through how like by connecting with the relationship between the variable resource with respect to the fixed resource, factor with respect to the product, that is none other than your factor product relationship. Clear? Can you follow me? Can we proceed to the factor relationship? So these are some of the summary of the three stages. Like we already discussed all these things, like what actually happens in the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, even with respect to the elasticity of production, MPP, APP, TPP, all the things. Yes, so we'll proceed to the factor relationship right now. So we already found out the answer for how much to produce. Right now we have to understand the problem of how to produce. As we have only discussed a case of single variable resource right now, but give me a moment. Okay. So factor-factor relationship. In factor-factor relationship, we are trying to give you an answer of um, yeah. Here we are trying to seek the answer for how to produce. Okay. So as I already told, we had only one variable resource as well as one final product. We try to understand how actually input is going to related with the output, but in reality we have many other inputs, right? So we will be using different input combinations. We can substitute, we can complement, so there are different types of resources that we can use. So along with that resources, how to choose the correct combination of resource, that is also important, because then only we can minimize the cost of production. You can do anything. See, rather than listening to this class, after the, like, see, there will be maybe some of the students, they feel like, okay, rather than listening to the class, I will be just going through the textbook. So maybe they will be starting reading from the first page of production economics from 2 o'clock. Okay, what do you really think? Like, both the things will be yielding you the same JRF result, right? But two people, one chose to read the textbook by themselves, second chose to go through the live, understand the concepts, and then revisit the textbook. Both the things are different types of inputs, but both these different types of inputs is actually yielding the same target, that is none other than your JRF examination and a good or purposeful rank. That's it, right? So which one I should choose? It depends, right? I'm not telling that reading is not reading by yourself is actually not a bad habit. I'm not telling that you should listen to my class in order to get your JRF rank. It is actually subjective. It matters from one person to another person. But which is actually the best strategy for us? That is actually the question here. Okay, so we have different input combinations which will be yielding the same level of rank, but upon which way we can actually easily reach there, or upon which way we can efficiently or easily get there. That is the idea of factor-factor relationship. So here we want to understand, among the different input combinations, which input combination is actually giving you the easiest way or efficient way or the cost minimizing way to achieve a particular level of output. That is the factor relationship. So here, this is actually the basic idea. Q star is equal to, so here also for the simplicity, for combinations means there can be many inputs, but we are trying to take only two inputs, that will be a combination, right? So two input case we are taking, and we are assuming that our JRF rank will be all India rank 1. It is fixed. This is actually the single textbook learning. This is actually going through the videos and revisiting the textbook. So these are two combinations, right? Or we can say that first is textbook learning, second one is YouTube videos. Simply, first one is textbook learning, second one is YouTube videos. So in which combination we can go? This is actually your all India rank first. So what is fixed here? What is fixed here? Your output is fixed here. We have already set the output, and in order to reach that fixed output, how we can make different combinations and find out which combination is better? That is our question. So Q star is equal to function of x1 and x2, two major input combinations. So here we actually require a major idea, that is none other than your iso quant. You already know what is iso quant is. Iso means equal and quant means quantity, equal quantity. What is equal quantity? Equal quantity is none other than the product that you have already fixed. This is actually constant here, right? But you can go through different combinations. So what were the combinations we have? First combinations is YouTube videos, simply YouTube videos. Second one is actually reading the textbook. Okay, either you can simply go through the YouTube videos and give the examination, or you can give the, or just simply read the textbook or give the examination, or you can mix it up, going through the videos as well as reading the textbook. That makes the different types of combinations. Okay, so we have different types of combinations of x1 and x2. Every combination will be yielding the same output, that is all in the rank 1. That is none other than your isoquant. The curve representing all the combination of two resources to produce the same level of output is none other than your isoquant. So this is also known as iso product curve. So you already know how actually iso product curve is, right? So this is actually your not iso product curve, iso quant. So iso quant is none other than in the x-axis you will be having a resource x1, in the y-axis you will be having a resource of x2, and this is actually your iso quant. This is actually your first iso quant. If more iso quants are there, it will be placed again and again upwards. So x1, x2, x3, x1 and x2 different combinations will be giving you. This is I1, this is I2, and this is I3. This is not indifference curve, this is isoquant. But the idea of isoquant as well as the indifference curve is the same. There actually it was different combinations of two goods which gives you same level of satisfaction. Here it is none other than your two resources which gives you same level of output. So you can say that isoquants are the production equivalent of our indifference curve theory. It's a question. Okay, isoquants are the production equivalent of our indifference curve theory. Okay, so this is actually your isoquant map. So if more isoquants are there, one will be placed above the other because no isoquants will be intersecting each other. As this similarly, indifference curves were also not intersecting each other. So isoquants slope downwards from left to right, because if we are increasing one, another thing will be sacrificed. While you are seeing the YouTube videos, you cannot read the textbook simultaneously. You need more time, right? So if you are increasing one, another should be decreased in order to maintain the same level of rank there. So isoquants slope downwards from left to right. Isoquants are convex to origin. Isoquants placed above one another represent the higher output, and isoquants are non-intersecting. One will not be intersecting the other. Then what is marginal rate of technical substitution? Simply, it is none other than the slope of the isoquant. Slope of the isoquant. At any point, you draw a tangent and take the slope of it. That is none other than the marginal rate of technical substitution. So technically, what is the meaning of marginal rate of technical substitution? When I am increasing one more unit of YouTube video, how much pages that I am sacrificing that I am going to read? If you are cutting the YouTube video right now and if you are starting to read, how much time or how much slides that you are skipping from the YouTube video, and while you are trying to read one more page of your textbook, one will be on the cost of another. That is none other than. So when I'm increasing one unit, how much additional is getting sacrificed? That is none other than your marginal rate of technical substitution. So how actually it is derived? Quantity of input sacrificed divided by quantity of input which is gained. So if we are having marginal rate of technical substitution of x1, x2, if we are referring to this, means like I am trying to increase my x1 by 1 unit and x2 is getting sacrificed. So therefore, marginal rate of technical substitution of x1, x2 is none other than delta x2 divided by delta x1. Okay. Then again, similarly, if it is marginal rate of technical substitution of x2, x1, the literal meaning is I am going to increase my x2 by 1 unit and how much x1 is getting sacrificed. So the marginal rate of technical substitution is given by delta x1 divided by delta x2. Similarly, we can understand what is the marginal rate of technical substitution. So we have two types of resources. First one is substitutes, second one is complements. What is substitutes? One for another, right? One can substituted by another. For example, I am feeling so thirsty. Okay, I can drink water, I can drink coconut water, I can drink Sprite, I can drink Pepsi, Coca-Cola, 7-Up or whatever it is. I can substitute one for another because everything is actually helping me to overcome my thirst. That is none other than your substitutes. What is complements? Fixed proportion you require it, right? In fixed proportion you literally require it. For example, you have a phone right now with you, with which you are seeing your YouTube videos, and you don't have a charger. What will be the case? After like maybe 1 hour, your charge will be totally exhausted and there is no point of using this phone. Simultaneously you need a charger or the electricity should be there. If both are combined only, it will be making pure sense. Utility will be there. Tea and coffee. Tea and coffee is there, but it's not connected here because we are not concerned with the consumption theory here. It is production theory. So you have to give me some production examples. In the production examples, what you can give as a example for substitute and complements? Can you please chat give in the chat box? In the production theory, in the resources, from the resource point of view, from the input side, from the raw material side, can you give some examples for substitutes and complements? The idea is correct. One can replace with another. Tea can be replaced with coffee, but it's not actually an input here in the production theory. What I am giving different in like examples is like for a conceptual understanding. Don't think like you can write it in the examination. Yeah, complements, tractor and drivers. Obviously, we have 5 tractors and 2 drivers, means there is no point. Only 2 tractors will be having utility, right? So it actually requires a fixed proportion of 1:1. If 5 tractors should be there, 5 drivers should be there, not one less, not one more. How much equivalent 1:1 proportion is matched, then only that much work will be done, right? Then hired labor and family labor. Yes, hired labor and family labor is actually an absolute good example for the substitutes. One can substitute it for another. If I am hiring some labors and one labor is not is not there, I am just stopping this class and I am just trying to substitute that lack of hired labor and I am giving my family labor. That is the basic idea. So these are some of the examples of substitutes and complements. So perfect substitutes and perfect complements means this is the ideal concepts. Like perfect substitutes means one can entirely replaced by another. It's like farm produced and purchased inputs. Both are the same only. The it's not like whether my whether the cow dung is actually produced by from my cow or maybe the neighbor's cow. Both are the same only, right? It doesn't make any difference at all. So that is the basic idea of perfect substitutes. What is perfect complements? As you have already suggested, tractor and driver. Proper 1:1 proportion, proper 1:1 proportion, but there can be imperfect complements also. Okay, so these are perfect substitutes and perfect complements. So if you are checking the isoquants of perfect substitutes and perfect complements, we saw the isoquants was convex to origin, and that is the case of imperfect substitutes or the normal substitutes. But if you are checking it for the perfect substitutes, the marginal rate of technical substitution will be constant. So therefore the isocon will be in a straight line. Okay, when it comes to the perfect complements, it is actually the fixed proportion or 1:1 proportion. So you can say that it is actually L-shaped isoquants. This is also known as Leontief isoquants. Okay, Leontief isoquants. So Leontief isoquants you can find out for the the perfect complements, where actually the resources are used in a fixed proportion. Okay, so it will be L-shaped. That is also another thing that you have to remember here. So why we have studied isoquant? Isoquant is none other than the different combinations. So we have different combinations of two inputs which actually yields actually our desired output. We have a desired output and we have too many different combinations. But from this combination, we have to understand which combination is much better for us, which should be yielding us when we are using it up. When we are using the resources, we should always think about like where actually minimal use of resource and which will be giving us maximum satisfaction, right? Minimum usage, minimum study and maximum rank. That is what you are expecting. That's why actually you're seeing the YouTube live, right? I'm not joking. I'm just trying to relate it everything. So yeah. So coming to uh, ISO coastline. So upon this major different what we call for it different isoquants, we different combinations of inputs, we should find a particular combination which actually gives us the best way. Okay, the best idea. So for that we will be using another tool which is already known as ISO coastline. So whenever we have, as I have already told, when we are using it up, when we are using the when we are using the inputs or when we are using the raw materials, obviously some costs are required, right? Like if we are, as you have told, there is hired labor and family labor, the wage has to be given to them. When we are hiring a tractor and driver, the wage has to be given to them, right? So which combination is actually given the lesser cost? That is what we have to understand. So ISO cost line is actually the different combinations of the same two resources, x1 as well as x2, which is actually under our budget, under our pocket. Okay, that is basically the ISO cost line. ISO cost line is actually the different combinations of two resources, x1 and x2, which can be purchased with a particular amount of money. If if you are having a plan, the first one, I'm going to trip. So when somebody will be asking, the first question will be like, what is your budget? So under the budget, whatever things I can do, I will be doing it. Am I correct or what? So that is none other than your ISO cost also. You have different combinations of two goods with the correct money that you are having right now. Okay, so you have different combinations of goods which is actually purchasable or dealable with a particular amount of money. That is your ISO cost line or budget line or price line or whatever it is. So we are trying to superimpose the ISO cost line as well as the ISO quant in order to understand the particular point or particular combination where actually this is tangent to each other. So isocoastline is actually giving you the combination of two resources which gives the desired output. So desired output is set. Isocoastline is actually giving you the two resources which actually gives you a particular budget that you already have, right? So I have a option, like I have a dream and I have my resources with me. I have a dream and I have a resources with me, and I am trying to match each other. Okay, the dream should be matching with my available resources. And where is actually the matching point? It is none other than the tangential point here. So the tangential point of the isocont as well as the isocost will be giving you the optimal input combination. So how to produce? You should produce with respect to this much value of x1 and this much value of x2. This much quantity of x1 and this much quantity of x2 will be giving you the best possible way to get to that desired objective. Maybe like the same way like you are seeing these videos, going back to your textbook, reading, revising it once again, and provide maximum results. Either the single YouTube video or maybe the single reading of the textbook would be made it very much difficult as a combination other than this optimal combination, but in a proper proportionate way it is very much easy for you to achieve that all India rank 1. That is the basic idea here. So we are understanding here how to produce, and this point is also known as the least cost combination. As I have already told, both these resources incur some cost. So here this will be minimizing your cost because it is matching with the available budget that you are having. That's why it is called as least cost combination. Okay, so if we are having different isoquants as in an isoquant map, we will be having different tangential points at different level of isocoastlines, right? So we have, this is actually, G is actually least cost least cost point, H is actually another least cost point, I is actually another least cost combination, right? So if I am trying to connect a line from the origin through all the least cost combinations, that is known as expansion path. If the expansion path is actually a straight line, it is also called as a scale line. Okay, so scale line is also called as an expansion path, but always remember that expansion path will not be always in a straight line. Imagine that, like I can show like this. Okay, this is one isocon, this is another isocon, this is another isocon. Okay, everything is actually one above the other, not intersecting each other. One least cost combination is here, one least cost combination is here, another least cost combination is here. So if I am drawing it, the expansion path will be like this. So this is also expansion path. It is actually connecting all the input least cost combinations. But here actually you can say that the least cost combinations are aligned in a straight line. So therefore the expansion path is actually a straight line. So if expansion path is a straight line, you can also call it as a scale line. Okay, then only you can call it as a scale line. Then what is an isocline? Isocline is none other than, always remember, any line which is actually passing through equal slopes is called as an isocline. Isocline, equal slope. Okay, and expansion path is also an isocline. Why? Because why actually it is passing through all these least cost combinations. In every these least cost combination, slope of the budget line and slope of the isocont is same. That is what I forgot to mention here. So in the least cost combination, as I have already told, the isocont is tangential to the isocoastline. Or you can say that if you are drawing a tangent at this least cost combination, it will be isocoastline only. It doesn't, it simply means like slope of isocont is equal to slope of isocost, right? Slope of isocont will be equal to slope of isocost. Similarly here also, in every these points, the expansion path moves through the least cost combination. So therefore at all those points, slope of the isocont will be equal to slope of the isocoastline. So therefore it is also an isocline. Similarly we can draw infinite number of isoclines, because like here there will be one point. Similarly equal slopes will be like this. So this will be an isocline, this will be another isocline, this will be another isocline, this will be another isocline. So this, like this infinite number of isoclines you can draw, but there will be only one expansion path. Clear? Another one, another important point to remember here is, we should understand where actually we should produce. That is actually decided by the ridge line. What is a ridge line? Ridge line is none other than, see, among these many combinations, among these many combinations, it is fairly good to produce at the expansion path because it is actually giving you the least cost combination. But it is not always properly possible in the real life, right? So even if we are deviating from the ideal scenario, that is none other than your least cost combination or expansion path, till at till where actually you can deviate from the ideal, that actually gives you the ridge line. So where actually we are constructing some ridges, ridges will be always making something under control in between, right? If you are, maybe you would have been having a course in rice production in your agricultural syllabus agronomy, right? So we will be keeping ridges in between. Why actually we are keeping the ridges? Ridges is actually meant to understand, like, the water should be stagnant there, it should not be like spread away, it should be there for the proper rice production. So we are trying to make a control in this. So ridge lines are actually also trying to separate the possibility of economic production and non-economic production if you are deviating from the expansion path. So therefore ridge lines are also two isoclines which are actually some boundaries, economic boundaries, basically saying it is an economic boundary. So points of maximum output from each input given a fixed quantity of the other input is given as ridge lines. So ridge line represents the limit of substitution. Inside the ridge lines, inside the ridge lines, this is one ridge line, this is another ridge line. So inside the ridge lines, all these areas you can substitute one for the another. But if you are moving outside the ridge line, it is like substituting one for another is actually not at all economical for you. That is the basic idea of ridge line. Clear? Can you follow me? That like, if we are going in depth means like we can go infinitely, but for the understanding this should be there in your mind. So ridge line is none other than separating the economic feasibility of production inside and outside. So outside you should not go, you should be there in the inside. That is the basic idea of ridge line. So if somebody asks you some statement questions like expansion path is an isocline, I am giving you some of the statements, just say true or false in the chat box. First statement, expansion path is an isocline. Second statement, ridge line is an isocline. Third statement, ridge line is an expansion path. Can you just give answers to here in the chat box? First statement, what was the first statement? Yes, first statement, yes, expansion path is an isocline. Second statement, ridge line is an isocline. Third statement, expansion path is a ridge line. Okay, first two statements are correct. The third statement will be false. You cannot say that the expansion path is actually a ridge line. Ridge line is actually something else. Expansion path will be always like this. Ridge lines are actually the giving you the possibility of other substitutions within the economic range. After this, the economic range is lost. Ridge line is not an expansion path. Yes. So you have the concept of understanding. So we have done with the second question, that is how to produce. Then the third and important another question, what to produce. Okay, what to produce. So first we have seen we had too many inputs, we have too many outputs. We have taken one input, we have taken one output, and we try to understand what is the relationship between them. Then we left everything. We went to the input side. We took all the inputs and we kept a desired output there. In order to achieve the targeted output, how we should get a good combination of these inputs in order to reach there. That was actually our second question. Right now we are leaving this side and we are moving to the other side, and in this side we have many outputs, right? And from this many outputs, which output I should prefer? I have ample amount of inputs and we know how actually those things are related with my products and all, but I should understand, like, from this area, from this array of this outputs, which output I should select, whether I should go for a single output or whether I should go for a combination of output, which product is actually giving me good returns. So that is actually the question of what to produce. What to produce, that relates with the product relationship. Once you already know about the factor relationship, product relationship is very much easy. So here, in order to understand which output has to be produced, we will be keeping the other things as constant. Okay, when we were dealing with the factor product relationship, factor relationship, what we have done, we took all the outputs, inputs, and we set a desired target level of output, and we try to make out with this input how we can reach there, right? Am I correct? Similarly, we are moving to the output side right now. I am feeling like I am doing some monite or something still. So we have moved to the product side right now. We have many outputs there, and we understand that, okay, you people are there, keeping you fixed. Let us see how much we can make. That is the question. So here, at what to produce question, we are keeping our resources constant. Our resources are fixed there. With that fixed resource, among the different combinations of a product, how we can take a particular product or a product combination. That is the question here. So y1 is actually a function of y2 or y3 or something like that. One product is actually a function of another product, or it's none other than there are one product will be connected with another product during the production process. For example, if you are considering the paddy production, you cannot simply produce paddy without straw. It is very much difficult, right? Can you fix, can you insist a cow to just produce milk and no cow dung or farmyard manure? No, it is actually combined, right? Most of the products are joint products in the case of agricultural production. You can't exclusively stick the production process with a particular thing. There will be some waste products, there will be some byproducts, all the things will be there, right? So therefore, among these different types of products produced, how much economical profit that we can generate from that particular combination of different products, that is our question right now. For that, the tool that we are using is production possibility curve or production possibility frontier. This is also known as transformation curve. So what is actually a production possibility frontier? This is actually the counterpart of isoquant in the case of product relationship. In isoquant, we took different two combinations of two inputs. Here we are trying to find out different combinations, two outputs, which is actually produced from the same level of input. That is none other than your production possibility curve. The curve representing all the combinations of two products which can be produced using the same level or input or resources can be considered as a production possibility curve. So if you are seeing the production possibility curve, if we are checking comparing with the isoquants are convex to origin, and the production possibility curve is concave to origin. It is concave to origin. This is y1, this is y2. There it was x1 and x2, because here we are trying to figure out like the different types of product combinations. Okay, so it is also known as iso resource curve because our resources are constant. It is also known as iso factor curve because our factors are constant. It is also known as opportunity curve because if we are moving from this point to this point, it is actually giving us an opportunity to produce more of y1, reducing the y2. It is an opportunity. It is also known as product transformation curve because if you are moving from this point to this point, y2 is actually getting transformed to another product which is known as y1. So that's how actually it is actually having some other kinds of names. So production possibility curve is actually the curve representing all the combinations of two products which can be produced with the same level of resources or inputs. So it is also, you can call it as iso resource curve. So what are the properties? It is concave to origin, you already know that. It is the slope, it is marginal rate of substitution or marginal rate of product substitution. Then change in the input levels, shift the curve. There in the isoquant, if you are having higher target, higher isoquants. Here we have higher input availability, higher production possibility. Everything is similar here. Then marginal rate of product substitution, what is, whenever you are seeing the marginal rate of product substitution, simply remember like it is none other than the slope of the curve at that particular point, or at that particular point if I am drawing a tangent, slope of that tangent will be your marginal rate of product substitution. So what is the technical meaning of it? The meaning is none other than, if I want to increase a product by reducing it one, but by reducing the other product, how much I am sacrificing in order to increase one other product substitute. That is none other than your marginal rate of product substitution. Technical meaning is none other than, if I had two products which is actually produced in a production program, and if I am trying to increase one more unit, suppose imagine that I am having 10 acres of land. In 10 acres of land, 5 acres of land was cultivated by paddy and second 5 acres of land was cultivated by sugarcane. Okay, but I want to increase my paddy production. So therefore, I am trying to increase my land area given to my paddy from 5 acres to 6 acres. but which is actually only possible by reducing my 1 acre of sugarcane production, right? So when I'm increasing my paddy production by 1 unit, how much sacrificing is actually happening to the sugarcane production? That is the basic idea of marginal rate of product substitution. So similarly, here also it is quantity replaced product by quantity added product. So therefore, marginal rate of product substitution y1 y2 means like, if you are increasing y1 by 1 unit, how much you are sacrificing y2. So it is none other than delta y2 divided by delta y1. Similarly, if it is marginal rate of product substitution of y2 y1, I am trying to increase my y2 by 1 unit, and how much I am going to sacrifice by y1. So therefore delta y1 divided by delta y2. So this is what actually the technical meaning of marginal rate of product substitution. Similarly, in the different types of products that actually produced in the production program, we have different types of relationships that we can find out. Joint products, as I have already told, the cow, the milk as well as the farmyard manure, paddy and straw, everything is actually coming in a proper joint way, right? Like you can't make one independent of the other. That is the difference. So such kind of things are called as joint products. Then something called complementary products. Existence of one product will be increasing the production of another product. For example, why you are encouraging the leguminous cultivation in the case of paddy fields? Because nitrogen fixation is actually happening in the root nodules of the legume plants, right? So therefore it is actually saving some nitrogen. 25% of nitrogen is actually fixed for the next crop, that is none other than your rice. That's why actually you are encouraging. So existence of pulse is actually giving a proper increase in the yield of the rice in the further seasons. So therefore those two products are actually complementary products. Existence of one is actually giving a strength to the other one, right? Like the same way, like why actually agri-addict is here. Agri-addict, the existence of agri-addict is actually helping your examination process in a little more smoother way, or it is actually helping your the entire study procedure in a better way. That's why actually that it's actually a complementary relationship. And your existence is actually making ourselves better. Like maybe we will be researching too much into the subject, we'll be trying to give good content, right? So it's actually mutual complementary relationship. Then what about supplementary relationship? Existence of one product is actually having no effect on the other one. For example, you would have purchased the exam, maybe you would have purchased the mock test bundle, but you are not at all giving it at all. Okay, it doesn't mean to agree, like the platform is actually not at all getting anything at all. You people are also not getting anything at all. But even if you purchase also, there is no difference at all, right? So existence of one enterprise, existence of one resource, or the product is actually not at all depending upon the, or having no influence on the other one. That is not called as a supplementary product. Then something called competitive products. What is competitive product? Competitive product means existence of one product will be detrimental to the other product, or both of them will be competing for the resources that they are having. For example, you would have been studying for the multiple cropping or intercropping or something like that, right? So therefore in between the spacing and all, you will be you're trying to add more crops. So they will be competing each other to get the resources, because they are planted in the same what do we call for it, the same land. So such kind of products are known as competitive product. Then called antagonistic product. Existence of one will be totally not at all good for the other one. Two of them are actually opposing each other. For example, if paddy cultivation and aquaculture. Okay, for example, I have a paddy field, so therefore there is too much stagnant water, so therefore I am just releasing the fishes there. Okay, so fishes will be growing. So what if in between the production process I am going to trying to capture the fishes? Obviously my paddy production is going to get disturbed. So therefore existence of aquaculture is actually detrimental to the paddy. At the same time, what if my rice cultivation is actually having some disease incidence or pest incidence? I am going to spray some pesticides or disease insecticides, which will be detrimental to the aquaculture, right? So existence of one to the other is actually not at all good for both of them. Such kind of things are called as antagonistic product. So always remember that in the case of complementary products, the marginal rate of product substitution will be positive. In the supplementary product, it is having no other uh, relation. So therefore the marginal rate of product substitution, which will be 0. And finally in the competitive products, one will be detrimental to the other, right? If one increased, another one is reduced. So competitive products, it will be MRPS will be negative. So these are some of the technical relationships among the different products. So right now we have to understand, like, okay, I have many products, so which combination of product I should take? I have a product transformation curve. So for that, another tool I will be using ISO revenue curve. In the same way that we used ISO cost curve in the case of factor substitution. So in the case of product substitution, we have a something called ISO revenue curve. So what we are trying to fix here, we have different, what we call for it, we have different products, different combinations of products we have. So among this combination of products, what is our target? We should have, or we should generate this much amount of income, this much amount of revenue by selling this particular combination of product. That is our target. When we were in our factor relationship, we had a number of combinations of inputs and we have a budget, and all these combinations should be inside the budget. Here we have ample number of products and we have a target price that we should fetch, or total revenue that we should fetch, or total profit that we should fetch. So therefore we will be fixing our revenue, or the possible revenue that we are going to generate. That is the ISO revenue line. So ISO revenue line also will be a straight line, downward sloping straight line, like the ISO cost line, y1 y2. So y1 and y2 different combinations of products which will be giving you same level of revenue, which will be realizing, or which will be generating you the same level of revenue. So we have two tools, ISO product curve, sorry, the product possibility curve is there, ISO revenue line is there. We are going to superimpose both of these things. What actually we are going to superimpose? We have different combinations of two products, that is here. Different combinations of two products are here. Targeted revenue is here. So which combination is actually meeting this proper targeted revenue, that is actually we are fixed already. So we will be superimposing it. This is actually your production possibility curve. This is actually your ISO line, ISO revenue line, and this is actually your tangent point. So here this y1 value and this y2 value, rather than all the other combinations, this combination of y1 and y2 will be the profit maximizing or the revenue maximizing combination that you will be getting. That's how actually we will be determining the optimum product combination. So here also, for higher level of inputs, we will be having higher level of production possibility curves, and for every production possibility curves there will be a tangential ISO revenue curve. So therefore we will be getting optimal point of A, this is an optimal point of B, this is actually optimal point of C. So all all the revenue maximizing lines or the optimal product combinations are connected from the origin, it will be another line which is none other than your expansion path. Similar to the isocons, you can draw infinite number of isoclines here, because isoclines are passing through the equal slope points. Here also you will be having ridge lines. So what is ridge lines? Ridge line is actually trying to separate the economic feasibility to the economic infeasibility. So here what you have to understand, or an important point that you should always remember, is nothing but in the case of factor relationship, we stick to the economic feasibility region inside the ridge lines. But here when we are coming to the product combination, you should go outside the ridge lines. Outside the ridge lines, the products will be complementary, but inside the ridge lines the product will be competitive. Okay, we prefer complementarity over competitiveness. Existence, beneficialism is actually much better than die-hard competition, right? So therefore inside it is competitive, outside it is complementarity. So here in product combination, ridgeline separates competition and complementarity. So you should prefer complementarity over competitiveness. You should go outside. So it's actually the negativity is inside and the positivity is outside. But there in the factor relationship, it is actually keeping everything inside secure and the rest will be outside. So that is the basic idea that you have to understand here in the case of output expansion path and ridge lines. Then returns to scale. So till now we were discussing about a short run production function where actually something is actually fixed already there and variable resources are already there. Right now we are going to a long run approach. So in long run approach, imagine that we have only two major resources. Simultaneously we are going to increase everything because we are trying to make all the variables variable. So that is none other than the long run function. There actually we increased only one because everything was fixed, because it is short run production function. Short run production function means fixed as well as the variable resources are already there. But if everything is variable, it is long run. So we are trying to simulate the long run production function. So all the variables are variable here. So therefore, all the variable resources are trying to increase unit by unit. 0, 1, 2, 3. Likewise, capital and labor is increased, and we are trying to measure how much total output is getting created and how much change in the output is actually getting for each incremental input. And finally, if you are checking returns to scale, means like you will be getting a graph like this. It's almost resembling to the total product, but not as a smooth curve. It is actually like having an increasing returns, having a constant returns, and having a decreasing returns. So this is how actually returns to scale graph would be looking like. If you are simultaneously increasing or making all the resources variable, or you are considering a long run production function, you can see first, for an increase in the resources, you can see an increasing returns, then it will be reaching a constant returns, then after that again, if you are increasing, means like you will be having a decreasing return. So this is how about the returns to scale. Yes, I think like yeah, it's almost like 2 hours. I thought like we can finish the farm management also, but we have now ample number of principles that to be dealt with. So I think like we can keep one more marathon session for the farm management rather than just uh, running and completing all the ideas. It will be much better, I guess. What is your opinion? And for the production economics, if you are having any doubts, means like we can solve it and we can just wind for today. Is everything okay till here? I think the production economics is properly completed right now. After this class and after like maybe within 1 or 1.5 hour, you can complete the entire reading of uh, factor, product, and factor product relationship, which will be very easy for you right now. And try to like rather than reading it again, because I think like you people already know this. So consider this class as a revision and try to make maximum questions, like not make like to attend maximum questions, especially from the normal Ravi Kumar. So that will be helping you to just understand where actually these concepts can be applied. So that's it. If nothing else, we can wind up. I'll be here for another 2 to 3 minutes, and if you have some doubts, just post it in the chat box. I'll be just monitoring, and or else we'll be finishing it off. Okay, thank you for cooperating, and we'll be seeing in the next session. So one more final marathon will be there for the farm management, and thank you. Have a nice day. Happy learning.